Hey everyone, my name's Melanie and I'm currently a clinical fellow SLP with TheraCare. So you may have seen my monthly activities that get sent out. I also did the presentation on apraxia, so if you saw that, I hope it helped you in any way. So today I'm going to be going over how I would typically run a teletherapy session. So to start, I have some handouts that I like to go over with parents to either send them or just go over in our session, as well as sending them so that they have them for their own records. I also will go over a bunch of activities that I like to use, and typically I usually have quite a few ideas ready for the session, just because sometimes, as you may know, a child may not want to do what you have planned, or just giving them choices of two different things at once so that they can choose what they want, but at the same time, you're still leading the session. So like I said, I'm going to start out by going over some of the handouts that I like to go over with parents. So if anyone else has used Zoom, you know that you can share your screen. So I'll do that to show you my handouts. Unfortunately, since I am recording through Zoom, I can't specifically show you how to share your screen, but basically there's a green button in the middle when you're running your Zoom. There's a green button that says share screen, and you can click on that, and then it brings up all the windows that you have open on your computer, and you can basically click on that, and then it'll bring it up so that the person on the other side of the Zoom can also see that. So I'll go ahead and do that and bring up my first handout. Okay, so to start, I found this handout on a Facebook group for early intervention. And if any of you are interested, there's some really great Facebook groups out there, such as Teletherapy Materials for Speech Language Pathologists, and another one called Early Intervention Telepractice. There's some really great posts on there, and also a great spot to ask questions or get feedback from other therapists. So as you can see on this handout, there's some different examples of toys that you could suggest to parents to get for their child, starting with puzzles, Mr. Potato Head, Legos and blocks, shape sorters, toy microwave or kitchen. This can also be paired with pretend food and things like that, so a child can engage in that pretend play. Baby dolls, piggy bank, bubbles are, of course, always fun. Dollhouse or farmhouse, which can be paired with farm animals and things like that. Train set, Play-Doh, and a ball tower, or another example is like a ball and hammer, where they have balls on top and you hit it with a hammer and they go down a little track. So the next page goes through specific things that you can work on with each toy. Again, this is mainly for parents so that they can work on these things in their daily routines. So you can start just by going over what each of these things mean so that a parent can correctly follow that through with their daily routines. Yeah, so it goes through all the different toys that are displayed up here. So now I will share another handout. Okay, so the next handout has some good examples of songs that a parent can sing with their child. So a lot of these are common. I would suggest to parents, if they aren't familiar with one of the songs already, to find it on YouTube and then learn the lyrics and go over it themselves before they try to engage with their child. So some examples: Wheels on the Bus, Ring Around the Rosie, Itsy Bitsy Spider, Old MacDonald. Yeah, I'm sure you guys are all familiar with these. Now going to the bottom, yeah, starting off with some tips. Like I said, finding a YouTube video to learn the songs and words as needed. Also, as a practitioner, if you want to use one of these in your session, just make sure you go over it first and kind of learn what either the motor movements are in it or the lyrics as well. Yeah, you can go over these with your family. A lot of these tips are to promote language development. The middle one just goes through some specific language goals to target, so we can focus on pre-language goals for those kiddos who aren't using words yet. Focus on a good example for Old MacDonald, E-I-E-I-O. You can work on those vowel sounds, and also kind of leaving a blank. So with a blank, you're waiting for that child to fill in the animal sound that within the song. So if you're working on the cow, E-I-E-I-O with a moo moo. So that would be the target. This is an example right there. Also some examples of expressive language goals and receptive language goals, and also specific speech sounds. You could target specific sounds within a song and work on that sound over and over again. Lastly, some strategies. So these strategies can be used within the songs, but also other toys. So you're modeling language, working on joint attention, so that that you're engaging at the same thing. The child is looking at you, or you're both watching the video of the song, you're both singing together, kind of just doing it together, like they're the joint attention. Auditory closure, that's kind of what I just went over with the E-I-E-I-O. You kind of leave a blank and wait for them to fill in the blank if they are able to. You can also give your child choices. Maybe 2 songs. You can use visuals like Head, Shoulders, Knees, and Toes, or Old MacDonald. Give them a choice of which song they want. That way you can work on pointing or things like that. Last tip was sabotage, so using the wrong word and letting the child correct you. That might be a little more advanced for some kids, but that's also a strategy to use. So I will go ahead and share our next one. Okay, so this handout kind of gives parents and therapists an idea of some core vocabulary to work on, rather than just working on labeling things like colors, shapes, ABCs, numbers, things like that. These are those words that are really more functional to help a child get what they want in their daily environment. So like it says at the top, focusing on functional vocabulary, words that can be used to request, protest, and comment on the environment. So starting off with core words. A lot of these also have some signs and gestures that can go along with them. So you may be familiar with this as more. So combining the gesture with the verbal output of some of these is helpful. More, help. This is help for anyone who's not aware. All done. You can either do like all done or all done. On, off, in, out, up, down, go, stop, and mine. Those are some examples of core words. Then some descriptors. So kind of like working on opposites too, like little and big, happy or sad, hungry, clean, dirty, fast, slow, hot and cold. So nouns, we can work on naming people. You can work on a child like naming their family members. So if they have a picture of their family, I work on labeling who's who, labeling different toys or different foods, animals, farm animals and pets are great to work on. Body parts, you can use Mr. Potato Head for. Clothing items, you can have parents work on this while they're getting their child dressed, or in the morning or at night when they're getting ready for bed. Some verbs, eat, drink. Eat, you can work on the sign, also drink. Play, give. The sign for give me is this. Open, wash, run, read, sleep. So you may start working on a small amount of them and then slowly introduce more. So we're expanding child's vocabulary. It says at the bottom, save for later, colors, numbers, letters, and shapes. You can also work on those, but the core words and things like this are what's really going to help a child functionally communicate. Okay, let me pull up the next handout. Okay. So this handout specifically talks about how to target functional language in daily routines. So something I've found with teletherapy is some families may not have access to many toys, or the child just simply isn't that interested in engaging with toys. Some kids really love like helping their parents do chores and do the daily routines of things that adults are doing. So these are just some strategies to help families if their child does like to participate in more of like the household things. Also, we can also tell parents that you don't always need to target speech and language within toys. We can work on language and speech in all daily routines. So this is just something important to bring to some parents' attention, that just because we're doing chores doesn't mean that we can't target speech and language. Again, I think I found this one on one of those either Teacher Pay Teachers or on one of the Facebook groups. So they're really great to check out. Let's see, starting with laundry. So modeling words, you can make things silly. So with laundry, like pretending to put a piece of clothing on the wrong part of your body, like, oh, does pants go on your head? No, just making it fun like that. Also says like teaching opposites, so working on clean, dirty, wet, dry, open, close if you're opening and closing the washer. Another one, it says expand on utterances. So if a child is saying one word, our job could be to add on to one more. So letting parents know that that's kind of how we teach a child, that we can combine two words together rather than just saying one. So modeling that for them. Dishes. So in all of these, we can work on vocabulary. So teaching a child what different things are, like water, soap, bubbles, working on copying and using imitation. Imitation is very important for speech and language. So getting a child to imitate your actions as well as working on speech. Again, this is just things to work on and tell parents that they can do. Following directions is great to also work on, telling a child to do a specific thing. It says right here, side note, that these can be used during bath time too. So you can work on giving them directions, oh, wash your toes, things like that. Daily cleaning, so we can work on like wiping, sweeping, scrubbing, having a child possibly imitate you while doing that. I know there's a lot of like mini versions of like broom, mop, things like that. If a child's really interested in that, you could tell parents like, oh, maybe get them their own mini set so they can also participate. Yeah, make it fun, have them turn on some music, dance around. Yeah, just have fun with it. Make sure, like, any time we're working on speech and language, we want to make sure it's a fun experience now, so the child doesn't feel like, oh, this is boring, this is work, I don't want to do this. Not like they're forced. Like, it should be fun and engaging. So yeah, this says these can be used for all ages and throughout the entire day. Work on imitating, labeling, also working on open-ended questions. So those are things like answering what questions, where questions, why questions, who questions, rather than just yes and no, because those questions require more language as a response rather than just either shaking your head yes or no or saying yes or no. Let's see, segmenting words. So for children that are trying to speak, you could start splitting up words into syllables. So this example says dinosaur. Just working on splitting it up, it might be easier. You can also add in a clap or stomping your feet to make it fun. It says repetition is key. Yeah, that's the main key for speech and language skills. We really need a lot of repetition in our daily life for kids to learn that they can say words on their own as well. Redirect in a positive manner. So this is talking about like not telling a child, no, you're wrong, like kind of just directing towards the correct response. So let's see the example they give here. Oh, a duck says quack and a dog says woof woof. Say they said, like duck says woof woof, you would just correct and say that. And of course, praise and encouraging words, like always make sure the child feels good about themselves. They shouldn't feel discouraged in any way. Anytime they even try to communicate, you should praise them and make them feel great. So that's just something that's very important to share with parents, making sure that we build the child's confidence rather than kind of discouraging them. We want them to feel good about themselves. Okay. Okay, so I think I may have sent this one out in one of my monthly activities. So some of you may have already used this or seen it, but I'm not going to go over the whole thing, but these are something that I find that I send to parents, go over with parents all the time. And it's been really helpful for a lot of families. So basically it gives parents an idea of what specifically they can work on with a child. So sometimes parents feel like, oh yes, I have all these toys, but what do I do with them? So as much as a session may help, sometimes they don't feel comfortable enough carrying over whatever we did during a session. So kind of giving them the tools they need to continue on with the activities that we might do during our session. So like I said, I won't go over everything, but you can have this as a resource if you would like to go over some things with your families. Bubbles are always great. Books, puzzles, toy car. This can be done with toy cars, trucks, or trains. So kind of working on the same thing, but rather than like vroom for a car, we could do choo-choo for the train. Toy bus. Toy farm, stacking cups, songs. We kind of already went over some ideas for that. Mr. Potato Head is great to work on body parts, blocks, some great vocabulary to work on, like on, off, up, down, like oh no when blocks fall down. Teddy bear, Play-Doh, crayons, a mystery box. Ball is always fun. You can work on turn taking for that. Piggy bank. Some families may have this with the big coins that you put in the pig. Just some things to work on with that. Let's see. I think it repeats now. Yeah, so there's just a bunch of activities on this that can really be helpful for families. So yeah, I really like these. And I think that's it for handouts that I have right now. So next I'm going to go over some boom cards that I've really found helpful. And if any of you aren't aware, it is a website. Right now it's a free subscription and you basically get little different little activities that show up on your screen and you can do different things with them. So I'll go over that and share my screen with that.
Okay, so this is what the Boom Cards website looks like. As you can see, I've found quite a few activities since we started teletherapy. I'm constantly looking for more, finding more on the Facebook groups, which I find these very helpful. So to start, I'm going to go over this Old MacDonald book. So basically, with boom cards, they're great if a child can attend to the screen. If they can't, sometimes it's a little hard. You can also share remote control with families. So since I'm recording through Zoom, I'm not able to specifically show you how I do that. But basically, when your screen is shared at the top, you can hit share remote, or it's remote control when you're with somebody on the Zoom. So you can hit share remote control to whoever you're Zooming with, and they basically have control of the screen and can click on things also. A lot of times I don't always do that with families, but for this specific activity, it might be helpful just because there's things you actually have to click on. Yeah, so usually with this, I go ahead and sing the song and we flip each page. So we would go ahead and sing this, Oh MacDonald, yeah, you know the song. And then when we get to horse, that's when I would pause and depending on the child, if they can use a phrase. He had a horse, and they could say that. But if a child is more at the pointing level, the parent could work on having the child find the horse on the screen and point to it. That's when the parents come in handy and will tell you if their child pointed to that. And if they did share remote control, the parent would be able to take the horse and drag it onto the farm. Yeah, so I'll continue going over this, but basically each page has a choice of 3 different animals. So go ahead, sing the song, and of course using the names of the animals as well. So here we go, we match a sheep, and then we hit submit. And it goes through that for all the different animals. And another option to work on after you complete one page, you could have the child work on more to request for the next page. I find that more is a great thing to work on with all boom cards because this is stuck on one screen and you want a child to kind of tell you what they want. So that's one way of getting them to communicate. So I'd model more, more. You want more, and the parent can do the same on their end, either showing them and verbally modeling it or physically taking the child's hands and working on more. Another idea is if the child has farm animals themselves, they can take out theirs and also play with the animal while we're engaging with the book. But since this is a song and we sing to it, it's usually pretty engaging for children. So I'll just go through, do a few more. Pig, oink, oink. Yeah, it goes through all the animals. Okay, so that's it for that one. Another great one for animals that I find engaging. Oh, I should go over. So that book was free, I believe, on boom cards. Some of the activities I did end up buying. It's kind of like a point system through boom cards. So you upload a certain amount of money, and like I think 100 points is $1. So it goes like that. So 200 points would cost you $2. So the one I'm going to share, I kind of got as a bundle, but it was totally worth the money, and I use this all the time. This one's really great because there's kind of a surprise element with it. So we go, who's behind the barn, or the child might not understand what who's behind the barn means yet. So I kind of work on either ready, set, go, or 1, 2, 3, go. You'll see the barn move. So I usually model ready, set, go. Oh, what do you see? So then we work on labeling horse and also work on neigh. Again, we can match. So I have little animals myself, so I might hold them up also, but usually with the boom cards, they're pretty interested in this and may not look at my little picture up in the corner. So we continue with this. Once the barn is moved, we can submit, again, working on more for the next one. So who's hiding? 1, 2, 3, go. Or we can pause when we get to 1, 2, 3, pause and see if they can say go on their own. This is one that I typically don't share my control with because I kind of want to be in control rather than having the parent do it. So, but it's pretty easy enough to control it and work on them labeling the animal and working on go or something like that. So sheep, again, I found a lot of animal boom cards, but they're fun for kids. So again, oink, oink. Pig, we can also have the parent work on pointing, oh, you see pig, and have, obviously you can't see them on your end if they're pointing or not, but you can teach the parent and coach them to also do that. So yeah, there's a bunch of these. Don't need to go through all of them. You get the gist of that. Let's see. Another one that I like. Here it is. So this one also did cost money. I'm not sure off the top of my head how much it was, but I use this many times throughout the week. Uh, so we start with this main menu. You can also just go through it, and once you hit next, it goes straight to the next one. But basically starts with like cars and things like that, and animals. And then these later ones are a little bit more complex, but I'll show you some of them. So you start with car. Yeah, so you can move it on your own. Again, I usually keep the control of this one and work on ready, set, go, 1, 2, 3, go. Also a lot of vocal play. So the name of this is basically working on vocal play. We're working on these sounds and environmental sounds that aren't necessarily words, but kind of just having fun with your voice. So this can be used at different levels for kiddos who aren't really speaking yet, or are more at the gesture or just vocalizing stage, or kids who are a little farther along and can say like ready, set, go, or even just go, things like that. So yeah, the car moves when you drag it with the mouse. Something I really like. So once it gets to the end, it kind of disappears. So at that point, you can work on bye bye car, bye bye car. And this part's kind of hard because if you let go of the mouse, it'll jump back to the road. But I kind of try to hide it and keep it there. I do it with my elbow sometimes. But then you model more. If you don't want to do that, you can try to just have the parent try to work on more with them. But I think this is really reinforcing because, oh, as soon as they do more, it's back. So that's really reinforcing for a lot of kids. Yeah. So I do this a couple times, judging on how the child is attending. If they get bored of the car, we can also move on to other vehicles. So there's a plane, you can work on whoosh, woo, wee, things like that. Like I said, there's a bunch. Oh, here's a train. So this is a little different, working on choo choo, or even chugga chugga. I like choo choo. We can do 1, 2, 3, go, choo choo. You can work on fast or slow train. Let's see, I do the same thing, kind of hiding it, trying to keep it over there and work on more. That's just the only way I've figured out how to do it. When you let go, it pops back. That's great for a lot of kids. Yeah, so I won't go over all of these, but essentially I use the same targets for each vehicle. Now let's get to animals. Yeah, so the top, it does give you some examples, like for an ambulance, wee, wee, yeah, truck, look up beep, beep. Okay, here's the animals. So similar to how I do with the peekaboo animals when you drag the barn over, working on the name of the animal, but also what they say. So neigh, a horse says neigh. But I also really like this one because we can target eat. So we can also do the sign for them. So each animal has some different food, I guess. So you can take this over and feed them. Or yum. More food, and work on that. Eventually it does run out of food, so you can be like, all done, all gone food. Yeah, so all the animals are like that. Like I said, with the other animal activity, you can grab your own animals and show them on the screen, or have the parent grab some animals that they have if they have access to that. So that's also a great idea. So cow, pig, this one's not eats, but you can put mud on them. Sometimes kids don't really understand why there's mud, so sometimes I skip the mud part, but you can still work on pig and oink. Chicken, work on cluck cluck, and you can feed them seeds. Same thing as before. So duck, so this time, like you would take a duck and put it in the pond. You can work on in, Some kids, if they are able to, you can start counting the ducks. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 ducks. Yeah, their example is work on quack quack or model in splash or duck. Same thing with the sheep. You feed the sheep grass. The dog runs around. There's nothing really else, but you can move the dog and work on woof woof. And same with the cat, work on meow or purr, but I usually stick with meow. And sometimes kids like to point out the birds. I'm like, oh yeah, tweet, 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 tweet. Donkey, feed carrots. Bird, tweet, tweet. Mouse, give some cheese. Frog, so you can also work on this. Hop, 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 hop. Hop, hop, hop. And again, count like how many frogs are in. Yeah. If you start out and you know there's an animal they like or something, you can click on anything here. So we click on snake, it'll go right to the snake. So then we can work on. Okay, so these ones get a little more complex, and you can pair this with using other objects that the family might have, but basically right here we're working on, oh, the girls are sleeping. Shh. We're working on maybe imitating the movement they're doing. Yeah. This one is working on uh-oh, so like things falling off the table, for example. So uh-oh, fall down. Oops. Oops. Uh-oh, fall down. Uh-oh, things like that. Okay, this is a fun one that kids usually like. I usually work on up as I'm dragging the girl up the slide, and then either down or wee. So you can work on having the child imitate you there. So up, up, up. Ready? Wee. You can also kind of pause up here while she's up here and wait for the child to respond or say something at all, like go. Yeah. Wee. The eat, so putting things in the mouth. This can also work on, you can move these around. So you could have, if the parent wants to like cover up some, and so there's a choice of two, could even put them on opposite sides and cover up the bottom. Have the child point to what they want, like hot dog or apple, or both the fruits, like do you want apple or banana? And then they could either point, label what they want, and then we put it in the mouth. Okay, so this one I've tried, but it's not as engaging as real bubbles because you'll see they don't pop. You can pretend to pop them, but I think it would be a little more reinforcing if they did pop. So I usually stick to real bubbles if I'm gonna do anything like that. Okay, so that's it for that one. And those are some of my favorites. Like I said, there's a bunch out there, and you could use, yeah, there's so many free ones, also some really great ones that you pay for, but depending on the kid, these are really helpful. Some kids don't love them. Some kids could sit there for the whole session and do these. So just some ideas of things that you can do with your kids. Okay, so next I'm going to use some toys that I actually use during sessions on my end. So usually I try to, depending on the child and how much the family has to access, work on books, other toys that I show on my screen, also try to imitate what the child's doing. If they have a toy, I try to find something similar and kind of build like joint attention kind of, but through the screen. So I'll go over some of those. Okay, so to start, I have a bag of basically pretend food. So I find a lot of kids do have this activity themselves, but it's kind of reinforcing when they're playing with it, but you also have the same thing. So you can kind of pretend to share the food, even though it's through the screen. They like that pretend play. So just some examples of things I have if you're interested in purchasing something similar. This specific set I got at Walmart. It came in like a little shopping basket and just had a bunch of different varieties. So yeah, some pizza. All the kids love the ice cream, so that's really reinforcing. Just having a lot of fun with it. And you can also pretend to cook. Let's see. So depending on what the child also has, they can, if they have bowls, or I have bowls, cups, also silverware. So a knife, spoon, working on, you could, mix, pretending to make something. I have a lot of kids that will actually try to like share through the screen, so you can play along with that, like, oh, can I have some, and hold your cup like close to the camera, like, oh, thank you, things like that. Let's see. Yeah, I have a fork too, so I pretend to eat on my end if they made something like a sandwich or juice or something fun. A lot of kids just put some things in a bowl and mix it around, but this is all about pretend play and just having fun with it. Of course, we can also work on labeling what we have. So like, oh, look what I have. What do you see? I have corn too. And always modeling what you do have. I have banana, yellow banana, things like that, expanding their vocabulary. Yeah, like I said, matching what they have is usually really reinforcing. And also within this set, I have like bread and sandwich stuff. So, oh, look, I made you a sandwich. My sandwich has bread, cheese, lettuce, and tomato. Here you go. And like hand it to them. Just a lot of fun. Yeah, fruits are great to work on. Oh, the strawberry is red. Yeah. So I think that's it with that one. Let's see. Something else I like to work on is with Mr. Potato Head. So usually I start, well, depending on the kid, if they're familiar with Mr. Potato Head, I usually start with taking everything off before showing them. So we can kind of complete it together. A lot of families do have Mr. Potato Head, and if they don't, I do like suggesting it just because it's great to work on body parts. And identifying them on themselves, Mr. Potato Head, mom or dad, siblings, things like that. So usually I would start, put everything inside so that they can also hear it. They know something's inside. It's kind of like a surprise. Like, oh, something's inside. He's missing some things. And then we can work on open, open. And I usually try to coach parents and do the same thing as me so that the child has their own example of everything I'm doing. And then like take out, take everything out. So then we can work on, it depends on the child. So if they are able to follow directions, I would hold up, either hold up or just say it, depending on their abilities. Like, can you find the mouse? Let's find mouse. Then I would have it too, and we put on. And then we could work on, oh, there's Mr. Potato's mouse. Here's my mouse. Where's your mouse? That's when the parents can come in if they don't know where it is, help them point to their own. And they can also model on themselves. This is mommy's mouse, or this is daddy's mouse. Yeah, so basically keep going with that. Can you find an ear? Ear. And then you can work on, look, one ear, two ears. And same with hands, two hands. Yeah, also if they aren't great with following directions yet, you could kind of follow their lead. So if they hold up, if they grab the hand first, like, oh, I have hand too. And let's put on. let's see, another thing I like to do with parents, working on pointing or giving, making choices. So having a parent hold up to. So hold them near your face, so you're drawing attention to your face, getting the parent to ask the child which one they want. So depending on the child's level, they may point to what they want, they may say what they want, they may just look, or they may try to grab it. So those are all different levels. So say the child is trying to grab. At that point, I would try to have the parent work on shaping the child's hand into a point, so that they learn that pointing is a form of communication, and when they point, they get something rather than just snatching it out of their parent's hand. So that's one way to work on that. If the child is already pointing, then we kind of try to move to the next step of, oh, no, continuing to draw attention to your mouth so they can see it as well, working on that. If a child isn't reaching, grabbing, pointing, or anything yet, I like to kind of follow their gaze. So if you hold them on either side of your face, you can if they're looking at one or the other, you can kind of assume that that's what they want. So I tell parents, oh, pay attention to which way they're looking. If you see them really focusing on one, oh, you want eyes? And then continue working on eyes, like, oh, eyes. And at that point, if the child lets them, they can also work on shaping their hand into a point. So that's just some different ways that I work on Mr. Potato Head. Lots of fun. And in terms of ending the activity, I like to have children clean up after each activity. So if they had Mr. Potato Head, I would try to have them put everything back inside the way that we started. So they started the activity by taking everything out. We end the activity by putting everything back in. So working on words like put in. And if a child has trouble with this, using hands-on assistance to put everything in as the parent's job. And if they really have trouble with even that, I suggest to parents, like, okay, you do most of it. You put everything in but one thing. Just make the child do one thing that establishes that they cleaned up, and then we slowly work up from that. So if they were able to do one, maybe next time we try to get them to do 2 pieces. So that's that. Next, I use these little surprise boxes. So these I actually sent out in my monthly activities this month. So these are really great. They're, I think, $15 on Amazon, but you can also use your own boxes themselves or a giant bag and putting different objects in it, kind of like a surprise for them. And so I'll start with, and some of the objects that come with the boxes aren't necessarily that great in terms of labeling. Like one of them is a robot. So I usually leave this one out and replace the box with something else, either like I have little farm animals. We'll go over this activity next. But just placing something else in the box that they may know what it is. So I'll show you some of these. I usually hold up one. There's something inside. Should we open? And I usually refer to them as boxes rather than presents or gifts, even though that's what they look like. I just feel like that's a little more simple. So we can work on labeling the color of the box, and then we can work on something inside, and then try to have the child work on open or even approximation of open. So things like that. So then I open, see what's inside. Airplane. Whoosh. So they're pretty small. So if you hold them too far away, they might not be able to see. So I usually hold them pretty close to the camera so that they can see what it is. And then I try to have parents also maybe match what I have. So, oh, you have a plane too. Then they can fly their plane around also. After that, I usually don't work on clothes, but you could also work on close the box, depending on the child's attention span. Close the box, and then I might show another one, or just be like, you want more boxes? And continue working on more. Let's see, this yellow one. Oh, yellow box. Continue working on open. So with each activity, I try to stick to one main target. So working on more consistently with most activities, because that's a great functional word and sign that we can use. Open, another functional word. If you remember that core vocabulary sheet I went over, that's a great word to work on too. So working on open more, labeling what's inside, and yeah. So this one, open, and I find it. I see duck, quack, quack, quack. So I'm trying to get their attention with the duck, and you could ask them, oh, what does the duck say? Things like that. Yeah, I won't open all of them. I think the set comes with 10 boxes, I believe. So there's quite a few. I'll just show you some more. There's like a bunny, a cat, a truck, the dinosaur. And like I said, you can fit other small things in here. Let's see. I don't usually use this one. This one's hard. Guitar. So I might replace that one with something else. Yeah, I think that's it. Oh, also there's a teapot, but I usually skip that one too. Yeah. Okay, so last activity I'll go over with on my end is the farm on a string. Some of you may be familiar with this. I know this is a great fine motor thing also. So it comes with a bunch of different animals and farm related things. So again, I usually start with having this all off. And if a parent does have this, I suggest to them that they keep each piece separately, like in a bag, so that we can establish like that cleanup portion at the end. So we start with just our string. Hopefully the parent has it like this too. Everything else could be in the bag, and then going from there, kind of similar with Mr. Potato Head, we can work on giving choices. So say I had sheep and pig. We can hold them up towards their face and have the child choose what they want. So same thing I said before, work on pointing, grabbing, just their eye gaze, or labeling which one they want. So if they chose, okay, they chose sheep. So, okay, put on, and we work on putting it on the string. Yeah, continuing with that, or you can, hard to show this, but if you wanted, you could give them like 3. In this case, I wouldn't use a tree. Give them 3 animals. You could set them down in front of them. Okay, can you find the pig? And then have them, so that's more of the following direction aspect. So they can follow directions and then put it on. Or they can just, if they grab one, you can work on just labeling them, but I try to keep it more adult led so that that it's not as child directed. But yeah, there's barn, tractor, all the different animals. If you wanted, you could also sing Old MacDonald with this. And each time you E-I-E-I-O, he had a cat. The cat said meow, things like that. Like I said, with Mr. Potato Head, once everything is on the string, I won't do that now, but have them take everything back off. Like, okay, time to clean up, let's clean up, and then put everything back in a bag, just so they know that the activity is all done. And sometimes I use this for all done. Using that helps the child realize that, okay, this activity is all done, and we move on to something else. So that's that. Those are some great activities that I've used on my end. again, a lot of times the kids may have other toys that you don't have, but just try your best to engage with them and work on joint attention and all the same goals that I talked about with these. So those can be carried over into most activities. So next, I'm going to go over how I work on some songs. So I like to also share my screen. Depending on the child, sometimes videos are too much and we kind of lose focus if I play a video. So some kids, I will play on my end a song, but I won't show the video. So they're just hearing it. So songs are a great time to work on imitating motor movements. And I'll go through them with each song that I specifically use. I'll share my screen 1 second.
Okay, so this is starting with Old MacDonald Had a Farm. So I just share my screen with usually YouTube, and the version I usually use is the super simple songs. Just because I know which animals they use within the song, and I try to have those animals prepared on my end. And I'll go through that. Also, just a tip with Zoom, if you are using headphones during your session and you try to play the song will go through your headphones and the family won't hear it. So before starting the song, it's important to make sure. So if you have AirPods like me, I just turn off Bluetooth and play it. But if you have a corded headphone, just make sure you unplug it so that they can hear it on their end. So I'll start with the song.
Old MacDonald had a farm, E-I-E-I-O, and on that farm he had a pig.
So I usually pause it and then grab an animal of which is on a screen, and then we can work on oink, oink, oink. He has a pig. Oink, oink, oink. And then once it's paused, after we do this, we can work on more. So requesting to restart the song and then get the next animal. So more.
E-I-O, with an oink oink here and an oink oink there. Here an oink, there an oink, everywhere an oink oink. Old MacDonald had a farm, E-I-E-I-O.
So another thing to work on with this song, we can work on the E-I-E-I-O. So we can pause it again and try to have the child imitate E-I-E-I-O. Those are just some vowels, since vowels are a little easier than consonants for children. So that's another tip you can work on with this song.
Old MacDonald had a farm, E-I-E-I-O, and on that farm he had a duck, E-I-E-I-O, with a quack quack here and a quack quack there.
So then I'd be like, oh, quack, quack, I see duck. And you can also suggest the parents to have the same animals as you do, so that the kid can actually hold an animal that's playing on the screen as well. Again, work on more to restart it.
An oink oink here and an oink oink there. Old MacDonald had a farm, E-I-E-I-O. Old MacDonald had a farm, E-I-E-I-O, and on that farm he had a horse.
Horse. Sometimes you can stop before they actually do the animal name and see if the child can do, oh, what does the horse say? Neigh. Again, being consistent, work on more again. A lot of this is repetition. We want to use the same things over and over again so that the child can get used to it.
E-I-E-I-O, with a neigh-neigh here and a neigh-neigh there and a quack-quack here and
with this, you could also do, it's hard to do because the song's fast, but you could hold up each one as they're going through. So, oh, he had a horse, he had a duck, he had a pig. But that's more on your end, and they might not notice because the song is going so fast. But I don't need to go through the whole song. They go through, with this specific, they go through duck, they go through
E-I-E-I.
sheep, and then they do all of them. Let's see, then cow, Then last one, I believe, is a turkey. Yep, they do turkey. So I don't have a specific turkey, but with the farm on the string, I just use the chicken, pretending it's a turkey right now. And yeah, then when it gets to the end of the song, we do all done, bye-bye animals, like that. Okay, so now I'll get our next song. Okay, so next song I'm going to do is Wheels on the Bus. This one is great for imitating motor movements. Again, I chose the super simple songs. If there's another different version you like, you can always do that, but this is just the one I'm familiar with, and I like that the little characters in the song actually do the movements as well, so the child can see them while they're watching the video. So I usually start it.
The wheels on the bus go round and round, round and round, round and round.
So this is when I start doing them on my end, and then before starting, I also tell the parent, okay, we're gonna try to imitate the movements of the song. So depending on the child, we either do hands-on assistance and do it with them, or the child can imitate either mom or dad, whoever's in the session, or imitating me while I do it. But again, I'm in this little corner while I'm sharing, so kids don't always notice me up there. So as long as the parents are also doing it, that's really important. So first is Wheels on the Bus go round and round. You can skip.
Wheels on the bus go round. The door on the bus goes open and shut, open and shut, open and shut.
So for this, I do open and shut, or you can do open and shut, whatever parents like. Some parents have specific ways they've been working on it, so it all depends on the family.
The door on the bus goes open and shut, open and shut. The wipers on the bus go swish, 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 swish. The wiper.
So you can also see how these little people are also doing the movements. I think that's very helpful for kids. A lot of kids do like the videos, so the fact that these little people are also doing the movements is helpful. Also, don't think I've mentioned yet, with this I continue working on more, having them request for more once I've paused the video. So I will just go through.
The horn on the bus goes beep.
So then we have beep, beep, beep. I think I skipped over, they also do up and down, so lifting your arms up and down.
The horn on the bus goes beep, beep, beep. The people on the bus go up and down, up and down, up and down. The people on the bus.
So we have up and down.
The babies on the bus go wham, 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 wham.
You're probably familiar with this song, but each version is a little different. This is the last one.
The mummies on the bus go shh, 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 shh. The daddies on the bus go shh, 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 shh.
And then all done, bye-bye bus. Okay, let's see. I have one more song to go over. Okay, so this, I'm gonna go over head, shoulders, knees, and toes, another great one for movement. I like to use this one kind of as a movement break because we can kind of stand up and move around and also work on body parts at the same time. So this one's pretty short. The super simple, you can see up here, the super simple songs is a little longer, but they go pretty quick. So I'm still trying to find the video I like the most for this song. Some of them go too fast, some of them start slow and then speed up, but then the child's not really engaged the whole time. So This one's pretty short, but also not too fast.
Head, shoulders, knees and toes, knees and toes. Head, shoulders, knees and toes, knees and toes, and eyes and ears and mouth and nose.
So we can pause this and continue working on what they just did, but I usually tell parents right before, we're gonna help the child do everything also. So even though you can't see me, I can also do it with them. So I'm touching my knees and toes. It's more helpful when the parent's doing it since they can't really see me, but eyes, ears, mouth and nose. Yeah, so it's really only a minute.
Head,
So they only go,
shoulders, knees and toes, knees and toes.
I think 2 times through.
1,
All right, so yeah, we don't need to watch the whole thing, but that's about it. So my sessions usually consist of starting talking to the parents, seeing if anything's new throughout the week or month, however often I see the child, going through their concerns, anything specific they want to work on. If I see the kiddo a lot, we may have already made a plan from the previous session, or sometimes I even text or email the family the night before for my plan, with either all the things I went over, possibly some arts and crafts, things like that. But the handouts are very helpful just so the parents can have a copy of it. Even if they don't have a printer, they have it for themselves to look over and read. And you can remind parents, oh, remember, like I sent you this about a specific activity. So yeah, and usually, so handouts, do some songs. Those are usually more motivating. So I try to stick to other toys and boom cards things first before going into the songs, since some kids get stuck on the fact that it's a video. Also, I should mention with YouTube, you can also pull up books. If you don't want to hold, I can go over that quickly. If you don't want to hold a physical book up, because sometimes it's hard. If you don't have the book memorized, it's basically impossible to read it because of the angle of the camera. But Brown Bear is an easy one. I do Hungry Hungry Caterpillar. Let's see, I do Where's Spot and Dear Zoo are just some examples of books that I've used, but I've also found it helpful to pull it up on YouTube and not play the audio out loud, but mute it and kind of go through each page. You can read it since it's on the screen as well. So yeah, and then going over just some toys, also kind of following the child's lead. If they're having a rough day, maybe stick to the things that you know they really like and not challenge them too much. We always want therapy and sessions to be fun. So I hope this lecture helped you, and you can possibly use some of these activities in your session. When I submit all of this, I will provide links and documents that I went over so that you can all have the same resources that I have used for this. Okay, thank you.